Hello, everyone. Happy Friday and welcome to A Course in Miracles 365 Awakening to Love. I'm your host, Tomás Garza. And today I'm very excited to be bringing you a message that is very brief, very succinct, and very direct. Yeah. The message today is beautiful, uplifting, and it's all about directness, as it often is with the Holy Spirit here in A Course in Miracles, with the voice for God. It's direct. Yeah. And maybe this speaks to you. And today is not very flowery. All right. It's not a very flowery day, nor a flowery, overcomplicated, elaborate message in these brief and very, very clearly stated truths. Truth is simply stated and revealed. And it's up to us to take it to heart. It's up to us to sit with these ideas, to contemplate these ideas, to meditate on these ideas. In other words, to practice them so that we may integrate them into our lives. And that's what this is all about. And if you are new to A Course in Miracles, just really briefly, it is a self-study curriculum. It's composed of three main parts: a text, a workbook, and a manual for teachers, which is kind of like a spiritual themed Q&A, which is really a lot of fun. That's a beautiful, beautiful section of this. You go at your own pace, and you're not expected to believe anything. There is no dogma that we must adopt. There are no rules. It's up to each of us to go at our own pace. And the very fact that you're interested in A Course in Miracles at all means that spirituality is pretty much at the center of your life and your being. And that also indicates to me that you are curious, which is always good. That's always good. In fact, it's kind of a prerequisite for learning in any environment, isn't it? Is maintaining a sense of curiosity. And A Course in Miracles brings us daily ideas. In the workbook for students, you may have noticed there are 365 of these, and it's something that you can do every day. And I highly recommend that you do that if you're interested in doing it. These ideas can serve you no matter what your spiritual background, no matter what your religious background may be, no matter what your upbringing is. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter your gender, your age, what part of the world you come from. These express truth with a capital T, and the workbook states the day's idea, and it gives us some explanation of that, which I'll help elaborate with here on the live stream. And it gives suggestions for practice. So we're going to just go ahead and launch right into this today. And I want to thank you for tuning in, for all of your comments. We've had some wonderful, wonderful discussions on this thread in the last few days. And I would invite you, if you have a question about today's ideas or a comment about them, or if you just want to say hello, please feel welcome to type that here in the comments. I will get to them on the live. If you've not tuned in before, welcome. This is about a 15 to 20 minute live stream every day. And toward the end, I do like to take a look and say hello to everyone joining me live. And if you're catching me on the replay, again, say hello, and I will catch the comments. And yeah, if you have questions, comments, please let me know. And I appreciate all of the likes, the hearts, the shares, all of the comments. And here we are on lesson 120. And this is the last of a series of review exercises that we've been doing. We've been, for the last few days here, reviewing 2 ideas per day. And these are ideas that we've already covered that we're seeing again. It's valuable in learning to have some repetition, isn't it? Especially in spirituality, where we find through direct experience that we can be really, really stubborn. Yeah, really, really stubborn. And then we find along the way that we're more stubborn sometimes than we thought we were, which is always something. And it dawns on us that this is really a journey, isn't it? It's really a process, because one doesn't simply lay the ego aside so easily. It's ingrained and it wants to come back and reassert control all the time. So, what do we do? Well, we recognize, number one, we give ourselves some grace. So, I invite you to do that, please. That this is a process, and that if it doesn't feel like you're making progress on your path, whether A Course in Miracles is a major part of that, or a bit part, or not at all, whatever your path looks like, if it doesn't feel like you're making progress, I invite you to take a look at the person that you are today and compare that with what you were like when you started out. Now, if you started out only yesterday, you might not have a very big sample size, but many of us started our path years and years ago, and it's worth, in moments where you may feel like nothing's happening, to take a look and see how different you are now. And it can be very heartening, very uplifting to see, wow, how much have you really changed? And I bet it's a lot. Yeah, I'll bet it's a whole lot, especially if you're watching this. That's a perfect indication to me that you have changed remarkably, that you have transformed deeply, and that you're very committed to your path, whatever that is. Now, A Course in Miracles can play a very large role. It is the centerpiece of my own spiritual practice, or it can play, as I said, a bit part is a supporting role. Is a good way to look at that, no matter what your practice looks like. So let's get into these ideas, because they're really, really wonderful today. And lesson 120 reviews the ideas 109 and 110 in the workbook. And lesson 109, I rest in God. Very simple. Yeah. I rest in God. Number one, rest. Yeah. And all that implies, number two, God. I rest in God. So, rest implies peace, doesn't it? It implies confidence, clarity, certainty, love, safety. Oh, yes, most definitely, safety. And it's a state of being, it's not a place. And God, of course, is not a human being, not a man, not a woman, not human. It's who we really are, and we can arrive at a place where we rest in that. Even if you don't feel restful today, even if you feel like you're running a million miles an hour and you're being bombarded, as we often are in the world, with stuff, and insert another word for stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Starts with an S. Yeah. We're bombarded with it. Sometimes it feels like we're drowning in stuff, in our own drama in the world. Even if all you do is declare and recite today's idea, that is very, very powerful. I rest in God. It's a declaration, and ultimately, it's true. Lesson 110, which we're reviewing today. I am as God created me. I am as God created me. There's very little else that remains to be said. This is a statement of truth. In other words, And the commentary on this, I'd like to read verbatim for you because it's very powerful. In italics, right underneath this review idea, I am as God created me, the Course says, I am God's son. Today, I lay aside all sick illusions of myself. And let my Father tell me who I really am. Let me repeat that. I am God's son. Today I lay aside all sick illusions of myself and let my Father tell me who I really am. So what draws me right away, and it may draw you in right away, is the two words sick illusions. We pursue spirituality in the first place because we hear a call, right? It may come across, in fact, and for many of us, it does come across as a voice, or maybe it's a feeling, or maybe it's something that happens to you in your life that may seem like a coincidence at the time. And maybe it does not seem like a coincidence at the time, because it's not. In the end, there are no coincidences, but it's something that stirs you and makes you remember. That's really what it is remembering something that has been buried but has always been there. And it may be something that you've actively run away from in this lifetime. We spend a lot of time as human beings denying the truth of who we really are. And something for each of us, when this call occurs, who can say? It's different for everybody. But when that occurs, something stirs within us, and it is a knowledge. It's a knowledge. And we begin, whatever this looks like for you, a process of laying aside these illusions. And the Holy Spirit just cuts right to the chase. Oh, yeah. Sick illusions. You're not lacking. You are not less than. You are not unworthy. These are all things that we tell ourselves when we identify with a separate sense of self. That's what the ego is a separate sense of self. Little s, where we're running around separate, competing with one another. Yeah, competing for supposedly scarce resources, where everything's finite. Everyone's trying to get a piece of the pie, so to speak. Well, we're setting limits on ourselves. When we identify with the ego, we set limits on ourselves and place ourselves squarely in this thing that we call the human body, which we mistakenly identify as me. We call it us. And we're, in fact, and we all know this deep down, so much more than that. So what we're doing in spirituality is we're awakening to that. In fact, you could say quite accurately that we're reawakening to this. This is the process. This is the journey that each of us is on. It's the journey you're on right now. And there are many, many people also on the same journey. None of us is alone. Ultimately, of course, there is no separation of any kind. So, of course, none of us is alone. But even here on the path in the world, there is tremendous support and love available to each and every one of you. Now, A Course in Miracles lends itself very naturally to study groups. You may participate in one, you may belong to one, you may have heard of them, you may be looking for some in your area. And it lends itself to this quite naturally because the premise here is that we're all joined. When I say, that's not really me, by the way, that's saying it, just kind of looks like it. When the Holy Spirit tells us that there is no separation of any kind, that is literally true. We're all joined. This means that there is tremendous support available to you in the world, because we get in our own way, and it can be very, very helpful to lean on a community of people that are going through the same things, the same process. And this applies, by the way, in any arena of life. There might be somebody who has gone through your exact situation. Maybe this happened to them 7 or 8 years ago, and they can give you some valuable suggestions, even if it's just sharing their own experience. That can hearten us. And we need that along the path. We need that encouragement. And what we're doing is we're laying these illusions, these sick illusions, and these are the direct words of the Course, we're laying them aside. There's no need to be deluded in life. There's no need to harbor illusions. Now, yes, we do it habitually, but spirituality is a practice of laying those aside and allowing the truth of who we really are to dawn in our lives, dawn on us, to shine through. So, to recap these very direct and very brief, very succinct lessons in lesson 120 here is lesson 109, I rest in God. Lesson 110, I am as God created me. All right. One of the things about A Course in Miracles that may appeal to you, you can tell, of course, that it certainly appeals to me. Yeah, maybe it appeals to you, maybe not as much, but whatever that is, this is a very direct presentation. The Holy Spirit is telling us these things in no uncertain terms. Why? Because sometimes we need to be jostled awake, right? Sometimes we need to be delightfully stirred or shocked, even, in a way that inspires us to take action. Because spirituality is all about that. It's all about it. Action. It is something that we do and work on. All right. So let's see who's joining us. We've got several people joining us here today on Enlightened World Network. And Kristen, hello. Christina, hi. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And Haley, yes, seek divinity in everything, and divinity will reveal itself to you. Yeah, I love that saying too. And yes, Haley, thank you. Oh, there's so much that I would love to say on this. I'll try to keep this one real brief, and I may not succeed at this. There is divinity in everything, and there really is. The bottom line on this is that really that's all there is. A Course in Miracles is famous for stating absolute truth in just 2 words. God is, period. God is. Mic drop, yeah? And what that means is that nothing else is. In other words, God, divinity, source, whatever word you wish to use. I use the word God because that is what A Course in Miracles uses. Simply is. And truth simply is. And by saying nothing else, then the implication is that nothing else truly exists, just divinity, which is really heartening because that includes us. Yeah. When we say, I am as God created me, we are an extension of God. Love is only capable of extending itself. It cannot extend fear. It cannot extend hatred. It doesn't even know about it. And the summary of A Course in Miracles, which you can find at the beginning of the text here, right toward the front, is that nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. And it just comes right out and says that. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. God is. Therein lies the peace of God, is what the Course says. And yeah, everything is divinity. So yes, absolutely, yes, there is a spark of divinity in everything, and we most certainly can, because people have done it. Perhaps you've done it. We can change our minds and reorient our minds to the point where we're seeing that divinity more and more, where we see the beauty in things, where we see vibrant, living colors, whereas before it would have been maybe dull. I mean, literally, we see things differently. We feel them differently. We experience them very, very differently. And it's wonderful. And this is something that, if this hasn't begun to occur for you, it will begin to occur for you. When? Well, I can't say. That, my friends, is up to you. So I invite you to go deep with A Course in Miracles if you're so inclined. It is a tremendous, tremendous opportunity to learn. It's a tremendous opportunity to grow, and it's a tremendous opportunity to begin to wake up to the truth of who you really are. And it's very highly entertaining as well. It really is. It's really quite interesting, and you learn so much. And in 8 years of practicing with the Course in Miracles as the foundational centerpiece of my own spirituality, I've learned a number of things about how ingrained my old habits of behavior really were, and some of them keep coming up. Yeah, I mean, some of them keep coming up, and they do until they're all released. And this is the process. It's a journey that each of us is on. So I invite you to dive into it. I mean, really, whatever that looks like for you, I invite you to dive into it, because it's worth it. It's so worth it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Hi, Beth. How are you? And guys, thank you for tuning in. If you have questions or comments further that I didn't get to here on the live, go ahead and leave them in there, and I will get to them later on today. And I will see you back here tomorrow. And guys, thank you so much. Have a great Friday and a beautiful